Good evening. I hope you can all hear me, because, well, I will just do the introduction in Italian, because there's a lot of people. I'm sure the others have a translation. Thank you very much for being here. We will start for this academic year of the new series of conferences of design talks that we always have here in Scuola Politecnica Design. It starts in advance according to the usual calendar. You will have the total calendar later on. Let me just introduce our guest today. He's definitely an exceptional guest because he is definitely a very relevant character in the design world and even before in art world. Well, and not only because also his experience is not only limited to Italy. Giovanni Anceschi, he is definitely a person who he says he wants to add more hats to his head. He's a designer, rhetorician, and an artist. I think this sentence really is clear for the idea of what he does in his life, because he does these three things at the same time, simultaneously. He has been among the founders of the Gruppo T, one of the most important groups of the Cinetic and programmed art here in the Museum of the 1900s, Museo del Novecento. You see some of his artworks. He has studied in Ulm in the 60s. He has also brought all the teachings of Ulm here in Italy and developed it here, and he has been a figure of design theory here in Italy. Well, especially he has also a teacher in the IUAV in Venice. Well, just a very complete presentation and introduction about him would be not possible. Thank you very much for being here, and he will tell us about the 1,000 things he does, and he will base his lecture on basic design, which I can also say that through his, one of his scholars is teaching here in Scuola Politecnica, and he is teaching in one of the courses, and I must say he's a direct scholar of Giovanni Anceschi. Well, thank you very much, Giovanni. Here's a microphone, and of course at the end of the... It's okay, no problem. Thank you very much. At a certain point, I will just stand up. Well, I'm a bit nervous always, and so at a certain point, I'll stand up and I will start speaking from there. Well, obviously, every good speech... So, they have given me these instructions. So, I was saying that each speech, which is respectful, needs some premise, obviously. Well, you cannot just enter a theme just dumbly. Well, this term, this expression, basic design, is not something which is super well known, and it's not so diffused, and people are not so aware about it. The title derives from an expression which has been founded like 20 years ago from an exceptional character. His name is Vignelli, the great Vignelli, that you should all know Vignelli, right? And he has been here. He has done several interviews and so on. Vignelli is a great Italian designer who has now been transferred to the United States. Well, this sentence, which is like a sort of motto, a general motto, is design. He says that design is one thing. He intends that architecture, product design, and communication design, graphics, and so on are the same thing, substantially. There is no difference among them. Well, I am not exactly of the same opinion, and it is very complex to explain in which sense. Well, what I'm actually really agreeing with this, there is a part of design which that design of architecture or architectural design, graphic design, product design, and so on, there is a particular field, well, that is definitely common to all these disciplines. And this sector has a name, which is an ancient, prestigious, and important name, because it's named basic design in English, but it's the translation of a German expression, because it's a concept. It is a concept which has been said in the times of the extraordinary institution, the fundative institution, what has founded our professions, which is the Bauhaus. Well, I say the Bauhaus. I use the masculine term. Believe me, it's right. In Italian, we have two articles, the feminine and masculine. He is using the masculine term. Well, this is something very important, to say il Bauhaus and not la Bauhaus. Well, in particular, according to all designers, all projects, and all the fields and all the sectors of design, well, according to all of these, this part, a part, is in common. Well, I can also explain. Well, designing a piece of architecture is not the same thing as designing a communicative artifact, an object, a communication, and so on. It's not the same thing than designing an object, a tool, a computer, or a chair, and so on, right? These are three different fields of design, but in common, what do they have? Well, what do they have in common? Well, in common, they have something which is a competence, right? A know-how, a capacity, a skill, which is in common among all these, which is the competence of attributing a particular configuration to objects, communications, buildings, and also we could say that deep down this discipline could also be and consider it like a basic design of the territory planning. And well, there is something, and furthermore, the most important thing that we need to mention is that this competence is exactly the competence for which we are paid for. When we go around the world, when we go and work, and we go and just design and offer professionality, well, if we did not have this specific skill and quality, this qualitative competence, this attention for the configuration, for the way in which we plasma and we articulate objects, if we wouldn't have this know-how, well, we would ask ourselves, why don't we need just simply engineers and technicians? I mean, the technicians solve the problem in general, right? But, well, if we really want to reach a standard, a communicative product, the standard of architectural product, and so on, which reach a certain level of quality, well, if we want, and we're worried on the how and not only of the what, well, in this case, we are just practically speaking about basic design. There is another German word, I don't know if this, well, there's a word in German. In the Latin languages, Latin-based languages, this word doesn't exist. No, actually, not even in English. There is a word that exactly translates it, which is Gestaltung. Gestaltung is exactly this capacity of giving shape, attributing a particular shape, not a form and a shape, any one that just turns out, but actually a particular shape. An exact shape. I hear someone here protesting, but so you're a formalist? No, I'm not a formalist. It's a form that definitely has to be connected to the uses, to the functions, and so on, right? But you have, well, this is the thing, actually. Designers are responsible exactly of this. Well, they are responsible exactly of the specific configuration that they give to their object. There is well, let me just repeat. For an engineer, let's just do an example. An example is perfect. Well, let's just take an example of an architect. The Calatrava Bridge in Venice. Do you have that in mind? Okay, you have that in mind. Great. Well, the bridge designed by Calatrava is a good example of this. He's an engineer. You all know Calatrava is an engineer, right? Well, he didn't limit himself as to work as an engineer and just placing the bridge there, like a thing there, that just brings people from one side to the other, right? Of the channel, right? So he has done something very sophisticated. He has also risked in terms of the functional point of view and a certain morphological and formal, too sophisticated things. But okay, besides this, we don't really want to enter in this topic. But you know, he's done a very beautiful bridge in the long run. This is what I believe. It's a bridge that speaks about itself and says, "I'm a bridge." You know. He doesn't just use as a functional element, right? Let's think of Venice and think the Accademia Bridge. Do you have the Accademia Bridge in mind? Well, that is a bridge that says, I'm just a bridge, you know, I'm a poor little bridge. Actually, it's the most pragmatic way of just carrying people from one side to the other. Calatrava says something different. We are actually doing exactly this. The discipline of basic design is the heart of design. So it's the thing which is absolutely specific. I said before, well, it's what they pay us for. They don't pay us, well, of course, naturally, we have to be absolutely aware of all the various shades, technical and technological, of the functionality, and so on, right? We need to be aware of all this, but this is design. And then there's the moment of the configuration. The configuration is this thing, which is the choice in just branching off of several possibilities, which are supplied by all the technical and technological possibilities and all the tools and so on. Well, after all that, we have the choice of that particular configuration, that particular shape. A shape, and how we can say, what do we design? Well, we design communication. In particular, I prevalently do communication design. When I put my hat of the designer, and obviously, when I wear that hat, or else I do other things, but in that moment I specifically give a shape. I decide a configuration of a press release, or just well, sometimes I take the risk and I use some difficult words, you know, communicative artifacts, objects produced to communicate. This is the job of designers that work with communication. Well, I design. Well, we can also speak, and now it's pretty clear that we can speak about, it's a long time that we speak about product design. Actually, before we spoke about product design, and now we've transferred this concept also to objects and communication. And we can also say that in the English-speaking countries, we speak about architectural design. Well, and it's very, very precise. Well, we obviously, in our culture, the Latin culture, well, we do not have, let me just repeat, we do not have this type of expression. We just say that this function of a discipline that just combines all the various disciplines is the architectural discipline. According to the Italian tradition, but also the French and so on, there is a discipline that is just up above, and underneath there's all the various other disciplines which are like some branching offs, right, of this main, they're like some servants of this main discipline, master discipline. This was true maybe in the Middle Ages or maybe a few centuries after that, but starting from modernity, well, the model of the various disciplines is another, totally different. It's like a round table. It's this round table to which all the disciplines participate and sit around this table, and they start with graphic design. They move to object design, product design, architectural design, and then we can reach the design, like town design, design of towns, designs of urban design, or we can also speak about urbanistic or territorial design, right? So this is all just to say that the concept of design is one thing, but embedded in all these designs, well, there is a field which is very specific, which is the qualitative. It's the one that says how. It's the one that we really have to state this. We need to be honest. Well, it's what is translated from the moment of a receiver, right, which could be, I don't know, a receiver, an audience who says it's beautiful once he sees a project of design, right? This project is beautiful. This communication is well communicated. I feel pleasure in looking at this. I feel pleasure in using it. It's not only it works. It works is definitely super important for your audience or your spectators to say something like that, or your user. This is just a premise, right? But it's an important premise to collocate this discipline. Let me just repeat. It's a particular area which is included in the great field of design, the macro field of design, which is very complex. There's technology involved, economy, finance. Well, when you design an object or a communication, well, you have sitting around the table, well, a lot of different competences, a lot of know-how. One of this is design, the architect, the graphic designer, and so on. Well, they are specialists. They have the specific know-how and the specific skills of that branch of design, the experts of the form, of the configuration. I prefer to speak about configuration because if you say expert of the shape, you'd say, okay, you're a formalist. No, not at all. Okay, good.